My wife's affair with my best friend lasted for years, and just months before our divorce, she convinced me to sign over $250, $0 of our savings to her as a settlement, only to find out she's now claiming I was coerced and wants everything, including the house and my inheritance, while secretly planning to keep the affair hidden from our kids. I never thought I'd be the guy to get like this. I thought I knew everything about my wife, Lisa, or at least I like to think I did. We'd been married for 10 years, and honestly, I believed we had a good life. Steady job, 2 kids, a nice house, enough money to keep us comfortable. But all that came crashing down in a matter of days. It started with little things. Lisa's phone kept ringing late at night, and she'd quickly dismiss me whenever I asked who it was. She'd get defensive, say I was paranoid or jealous. She's always been a bit of a bitch about my jealousy, telling me I overreacted, that I didn't trust her. But I trusted her. Well, I did until I started noticing the small cracks. She'd start working late more often, claiming it was just her boss pushing deadlines. I'd come home early once and catch her sneaking out the back door with her purse. She'd always be quick to brush it off, say she was running errands or meeting a friend. But I'd see her talking on the phone in her car, whispering, and I'd catch her sneaking texts. Then came the night I found her phone open on the kitchen table. I saw the messages, flirty, suggestive, and definitely not with her boss. They were with someone named Jake. That was when my stomach dropped. I looked closer and saw a string of texts that made it clear she'd been having sex with him for months. Months. And she'd been lying to me the whole time. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, so I decided to dig deeper. I installed a spy app on her phone, and what I found was worse than I expected. Not just one affair, but a full-blown relationship. She'd been sneaking around with Jake, my best friend, for over 3 years. 3 years of lying, hiding, pretending everything was fine. I couldn't believe it. The worst part, she convinced me to sign over $250,000 from our savings just a few months ago, claiming she needed it for a settlement after a supposed legal issue. She told me she'd use it to pay off some debts and invest in her business. Instead, I found out she was planning to leave me, take everything I worked for, and run off with Jake. She's been planning this for months, and I had no idea. When I confronted her, she lied again, said I was paranoid, that I was accusing her of something she didn't do, that I was jealous and controlling. But I had proof, screenshots, bank statements, her own texts. Still, she kept spinning her web of lies, telling me I was crazy, that I was making this all up because I couldn't handle her success or her independence. She's always been a bitch about money, too, spending recklessly, hiding bills, lying about her expenses. That night I felt like I was losing my mind. My wife, the woman I loved and trusted, was sleeping with my best friend, and she'd been doing it for years behind my back. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I was so blind. I was angry, hurt, betrayed, more than I'd ever felt in my life. And the worst part, she was planning to take everything I had, our savings, the house, even my inheritance, while pretending everything was fine until she got what she wanted. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just let her walk away with my life, my money, and my reputation. I started planning my next move, trying to figure out how I could get revenge and protect what was mine. I still loved her, or at least I thought I did, but that love was shattered now. I didn't know if I'd ever trust anyone again after this. The betrayal cut too deep, and I was left standing there trying to hold my life together while she was secretly planning her escape with Jake. After I found out everything, I couldn't just sit around and do nothing. The shock was still wearing off, but my mind was racing. How long had she been lying? How much of what we built together was just a facade? I looked through her phone again, this time more carefully, and found even more disturbing details. She had been planning to leave me. For months, she'd been talking about starting fresh with Jake, about how she deserved better than my boring, controlling ass. I knew I had to act fast. I started gathering all the evidence I could, screenshots of texts, bank statements, her secret emails. I even pulled the security footage from our house, just to confirm her comings and goings. It was brutal, but I needed to be sure I had everything in order before I confronted her again. Her behavior had already changed. She was more bitchy than usual, snapping at me over small things, acting like I was the problem. She'd lie outright about where she'd been, claiming she'd been at work or with her sister. But I knew better. I knew she was with Jake, and I knew she was planning to take everything I owned. One night I decided to confront her again. I told her I had evidence, that I knew about the affair. She tried to deny it at first, but I showed her the screenshots, the bank transfers, the times and dates. Her face turned red and she started yelling, saying I was crazy, that I was stalking her, that I was ruining her reputation. She even had the nerve to say I was just jealous because she was successful and I was insecure. It was all lies. I felt a mix of rage and heartbreak. I had trusted her for so long and she had been playing me for a fool. She claimed she loved me, that it was just a mistake, that she was sorry. Sorry. After 3 years with Jake, after lying to my face every day. Sorry doesn't even begin to cover it. I realized then that I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. The betrayal ran too deep. I decided I'd had enough. This wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was about the fact that she was trying to take everything I had worked for, including my inheritance and the house. She'd already convinced me to sign over a chunk of money, and I thought I was doing the right thing at the time. But now I saw her true colors. She was manipulative, selfish, and completely ruthless. I started talking to a lawyer the next day. I needed to protect myself and my assets. I also started considering how I could get revenge, something that would make her regret ever crossing me. I wasn't the kind of guy to go all emotional and petty, but I was determined to make her pay for what she'd done. If she wanted to destroy my life, I'd make sure she lost just as much, if not more. Meanwhile, she kept up her act, pretending to be innocent in front of the kids. She'd cry and say she was sorry, that she loved them, that she'd never do anything to hurt the family. But I knew better. I saw the way she looked at Jake's texts, how she'd sneak her phone away when she thought I wasn't looking. She was planning her escape, and I was the last to know. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything, the lies, the betrayal, the way she'd looked in my eyes and lied so convincingly. I felt a mixture of disgust and helplessness. How could I have been so blind? How did I not see the signs? I kept asking myself if I should just walk away or if I should fight for what's rightfully mine. I decided I'd fight, not just to keep my money or the house, but to make her regret ever messing with me. I wanted her to see that I wasn't going to be a pushover, that I could be just as ruthless when pushed. I was going to expose her for the liar and manipulator she was, and I was going to make sure she paid for the years of betrayal. I didn't tell her yet that I knew everything. I wanted her to keep thinking she was still in control for just a little longer. But I was already planning my next moves, how to get full custody of the kids, how to freeze her accounts, and how to make her regret ever crossing me. I knew this wasn't going to be easy, but I was done being the nice guy. She'd pushed me too far. It was time to fight back. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I've never been a vengeful person, but this was different. She'd taken everything for granted, my trust, my love, my money, and now she was trying to walk away with it all, pretending she was the victim. I couldn't let her get away with it. Not after all the years I'd given her, not after the sacrifices I made just to keep our life afloat. I started pulling the pieces together. I contacted a lawyer who specialized in divorce and asset protection. We went over everything, her secret accounts, her plans to leave town with the kids, the money she convinced me to sign over. The lawyer told me I had a strong case to contest the settlement, especially since she'd been planning this for months. That was a small comfort, but it wasn't enough. I wanted her to feel what it was like to be betrayed, to be cornered and powerless. In the meantime, I kept my eye on her. Her behavior grew more erratic. She was more bitchy, snapping at the kids, giving me cold stares when I tried to talk to her. I could tell she was starting to panic, which only fueled my resolve. I knew I had to act fast before she made any more moves. I also started gathering more evidence, hidden cameras in the house, recordings of her conversations, anything that could prove she was planning to leave with the kids and take everything I had. One evening I caught her in a lie. She was on the phone, whispering again, and I managed to overhear her talking to Jake. She said she was almost ready, that she'd be out of there before the end of the week. That was the final straw. I confronted her that night, told her I knew everything, and warned her that I was prepared to fight for my rights, and that I wouldn't let her take the kids or my inheritance without a fight. Her reaction was classic Lisa, defensive, bitchy, and dismissive. She told me I was overreacting, that I was just jealous, that she loved me and the kids. She insisted she wasn't leaving, that I was just paranoid. I looked her in the eyes and told her I had proof, screenshots, recordings, bank statements, and that I was going to make sure she didn't get away with this. She sneered, called me crazy, and said I was just trying to control her. But I knew better. I knew she'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. She'd been manipulating me, lying to my face, and secretly plotting her escape. And now she was trying to act innocent, trying to pretend it was all my fault. I felt a deep rage boiling inside me. I'd trusted her, loved her, and she'd betrayed me in the worst way possible. I decided to cut her off completely. No more late nights, no more secret phone calls, no more lies. I was going to make her regret crossing me. I also started talking to a private investigator, someone I could trust to keep an eye on her movements. If she was planning to run, I needed to know exactly when and where. I wasn't going to let her slip away with my money and my kids without a fight. The emotional toll was staggering. I went from feeling heartbreak and betrayal to pure rage. I was angry at Jake for being a scumbag and at Lisa for being so manipulative. But mostly I was angry at myself for not seeing it sooner. I kept asking myself how I could have missed the signs, how I let her get away with all this for so long. In the end, I realized that I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I had to stand up for myself and fight, not just for the money, but for my dignity and my children's future. I knew this was only the beginning, but I was determined to see it through. I wasn't going to let her walk all over me, not anymore. If she thought she could just lie, cheat, and manipulate her way out of this, she had another thing coming. I was going to make her pay, one way or another. The days that followed were the most intense of my life. I kept my cool on the surface, but inside I was boiling with a mix of anger, betrayal, and a desperate need for justice. I had everything I needed now: proof of her affair, her plans to run with the kids, and her attempts to manipulate me into giving her everything. I knew I had to act carefully but decisively. My lawyer advised me to file for an emergency custody hearing. I hadn't wanted it to come to this, but I couldn't let her take the kids without a fight. She was reckless, manipulative, and clearly planning to disappear, and I was not going to let her do that without a legal battle. I also started the process of freezing her bank accounts and taking control of our assets. She'd been secretly transferring money to Jake and her own accounts, planning to hide it all. I had to stop her before she cleaned us out. Meanwhile, I kept the surveillance going. The private investigator confirmed she'd been making arrangements to leave town, booking flights, and even talking about changing her name. I couldn't believe she was willing to abandon everything: her marriage, her family, her reputation, just to run off with Jake. It was surreal. One night, I caught her packing her bags. She was trying to sneak out while the kids were asleep. I was waiting in the living room, my heart pounding, ready to confront her. When she saw me, her face twisted into a mixture of anger and panic. She spat at me, trying to deny everything, but I pulled out the evidence I'd gathered: screenshots, bank statements, her own words. I told her she wasn't going anywhere, that I'd already taken steps to stop her, and that she was going to face the consequences. Her reaction was as bitchy as ever. She called me controlling, said I was ruining her life, and accused me of trying to keep her from her happiness. She told the kids I was just jealous and that I didn't want her to be happy, but I knew the truth. She was planning to run with Jake, to leave her family behind, and to take everything I had worked for. I couldn't let that happen. The next morning, I took her to court. The judge granted me temporary custody of the kids, citing her suspicious behavior and the evidence of her plans to leave. I felt a small victory, but I knew it was only the beginning. She was furious, screaming at me in the courtroom, calling me a control freak and a liar. She tried to spin it all, saying I was just jealous of her success and that I was trying to trap her, but I wasn't listening anymore. I was focused on protecting my kids and my assets. The most shocking thing was how she tried to turn the kids against me. She told them I was being unfair, that I was trying to control her, that I didn't love them enough. It hurt more than I can say. I felt like I was losing my family and I hated her for it. But I also knew I had to stay strong for the kids, for myself. In the aftermath, I started making plans to officially divorce her. I also began the process of reclaiming our money and assets. I was determined not to let her take everything without a fight. She was furious, throwing tantrums, trying to manipulate the situation, even threatening to expose me if I didn't give her what she wanted. But I wasn't going to let her win that way. I also reached out to my family and friends, told them everything, and asked for support. The betrayal was one thing, but the shame of how she was trying to spin it all was another. I needed people on my side. I also promised myself I wouldn't let this break me. I'd been through hell, but I was still standing. Looking back now, I realized that some part of me hoped she'd come to her senses and realize what she was losing. But deep down, I knew she was too far gone. She made her choices, and now I had to make mine. I wasn't just fighting for my money or my marriage. I was fighting for my dignity, my kids, and a future I could still control. I had no idea how this would end, but I knew one thing for sure. I was done being the victim. It was time to take back what was mine. The legal battle dragged on, but I felt a strange sense of clarity amidst all the chaos. Every day I spent fighting to protect my assets, my kids, and my reputation only strengthened my resolve. Lisa was more furious than ever, constantly trying to manipulate the situation, calling me names, threatening to ruin me, even trying to turn the kids against me with lies about how I was controlling and abusive. But I kept my cool, knowing that the truth was on my side. I started to see her for what she truly was, a manipulative, selfish woman who'd been cheating on me with my best friend for years, all while pretending to be the perfect wife and mother. That realization hit hard. I had been blind, but now I saw her for what she was. The betrayal cut so deep I wondered how I ever trusted her at all. Still, I had to stay strong for the kids, for myself. The biggest blow came when I discovered she'd been secretly transferring large sums of money to Jake, planning to leave town with him. I managed to freeze her accounts, but it was clear she'd been planning her escape for a long time. She kept insisting she loved the kids, that she was just trying to find her happiness, but I knew better. She was trying to run away with everything I had, our house, my inheritance, the savings we'd built over the years. At the same time, I started putting together a strategy to get full custody of the kids. I hired a private investigator to monitor her movements, just to be safe. I wanted to make sure she wasn't hiding anything or planning to disappear with them. I also began documenting every lie, every sneaky move, every time she tried to manipulate the situation. I knew I had to be meticulous if I wanted to win this. One night I caught her sneaking out again, this time with a bag packed and her phone glued to her ear. I was waiting in the living room, and when she saw me, her face twisted into a mix of anger and panic. She tried to deny everything, but I showed her the evidence I had, her secret texts, her flight bookings, her plans to leave. She screamed at me, calling me paranoid and controlling, trying to paint herself as the victim, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I told her she wasn't going anywhere, that I had already taken steps to keep her from leaving with the kids or the money. She snapped, calling me a jealous, insecure bastard, saying I was just trying to keep her down. That was the moment I realized I couldn't keep pretending she was innocent. She'd been planning this for months, and I was just now figuring it out. The courtroom hearings kept coming, and each time I felt more confident that I was doing the right thing. I fought hard for custody, for the assets, and to keep my reputation intact. Lisa kept trying to manipulate the system, to turn the judge against me, but her lies fell flat. I had the evidence and I had the truth. The judge saw through her, and I was awarded primary custody of the kids, something I'd fought for with everything I had. It still hurt to see her so bitter and angry. She tried to guilt-trip the kids, telling them I was controlling and that she loved them more. I hated seeing her use them as pawns, but I knew I had to stay the course. I wanted the best for my children, and I was prepared to do whatever it took to give them stability, even if it meant a long, painful legal fight. In the end, I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. Relief because I was finally taking control of my life after being betrayed so badly. Sadness because I lost the woman I loved, the family I thought I knew. But I also knew I'd come out of this stronger. I learned a lot about trust, about people's true colors, and about standing up for myself. I realized that sometimes you have to lose everything to find yourself again. Lisa's betrayal was a wake-up call. It taught me that no matter how much you love someone, sometimes you have to protect yourself first. I still have a long road ahead, divorcing her completely, rebuilding my life, and healing from all the hurt. But I'm ready. I'm done being a victim, and I'm ready to start fresh. I just hope other people out there who are going through something similar realize they're not alone and that they have the strength to fight back. Looking back, now I can't help but feel a mix of bitterness and relief. The whole ordeal has changed me in ways I never expected. I thought I knew Lisa, thought I knew our life together. Turns out, I was living with a woman who was willing to betray me for years, manipulate her way out of every consequence, and lie to everyone, including her own kids, just to get what she wanted. The worst part, she was so good at pretending, at spinning her lies, that I almost didn't see it coming. I learned that trust is a fragile thing, and once broken, it's almost impossible to fix. But I also learned something else. I'm stronger than I thought. I survived the betrayal, fought for my rights, and protected what matters most, my children and my dignity. I realized I don't need her or her lies to define me. I can rebuild from this, piece by piece. Throughout this process, I've come to understand that revenge isn't about getting even or hurting her back. It's about reclaiming your life, standing tall despite everything, and making sure the people who betray you don't get away with it. I wanted her to see that I was not going to be a pushover, that I was capable of fighting for what's mine. And I did. The most important lesson I want to share is this. If you're ever in a situation where someone you trusted has turned out to be a liar and a cheat, don't give up. Don't let her or him destroy your life. Gather your evidence, get your legal support, and fight with everything you've got. Protect your kids, your assets, and your reputation. Because at the end of the day, the truth will come out, and the people who lie and manipulate will have to face the consequences. Now I'm focusing on healing. I've started therapy, reconnected with friends and family, and begun the slow process of rebuilding my confidence. My kids are doing better, and I'm making sure they feel loved and safe. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I'm done being a victim. I'm taking control back, piece by piece. If there's one thing I hope anyone reading this learns, it's that betrayal hurts, but it doesn't have to break you. You can come out stronger. You can rebuild your life on your own terms. And most importantly, don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. Because, in the end, nobody else is going to do it for you.